So thanks for joining, everybody. Really take a short clip of your time really this morning. I'm a mental health professional in the area, practicing in Orange County currently, and I'll get into it a little bit, but throughout my course kind of through New York City and Westchester as well. We just started a program called Moving Forward. So like I said, 10 years experience working in the Hudson Valley with adolescents, adults, families, Westchester and New York City. During the course of that time, partially with CPS and foster care systems, supporting families through DV and family court proceedings and all that. So sometimes it's like Venn diagram overlap between mental health and the legal world, right, with family court. And during that time, I focused primarily with like substance use disorders. In that stretch of time with CPS and foster care, we did dozens and dozens, probably several hundred home visits, right? Which is part of what we'll get into of like how the idea for clutter and junk removal started, is doing so many home visits, you start to see how people live and their relationship with their stuff, right? I also recently were post-COVID, to give you a little background of what I do as well. We developed a CE on social isolation and loneliness. So we've been lucky enough to do trainings for psychologists, mental health counselors, social workers on social isolation and loneliness, the impact on mental health, and as a public health issue, which the Surgeon General recently put out a report on. And it's very interesting topic. There's some overlap too of like the hoarding issue and loneliness and isolation and all that. So we got invited to speak at the annual New York State Mental Health Counselors Conference coming up. So we're excited about that too. The other person on staff here would be my partner, Dr. Neda Edmoni, who's our staff psychologist. 10 years experience in clinical psychology in the Hudson Valley and Westchester. Other mental health initiatives internationally. Her specialization is in anxiety disorders, OCD, childhood attachment styles, and trauma. Also recently I've started an animal-assisted mental health partnership with SUNY programs in the area. So she'll do like campus outreach with dogs in the next, right? Animal-assisted therapy, very evidence-based, and she recently started that as well.
Which schools?
So right now she's at SUNY Dutchess, and she's been doing that for like 3 years. And then SUNY Orange is seemingly starting next semester. So to dig in some quick statistics about hoarding, about 2 to 6% of U.S. adults meet the clinical criteria for hoarding disorder. That translates to about 6 to 20-ish million American homes. Keep in mind too, there's even more that would fall into this range in like a subclinical way. They might not meet all criteria for a hoarding disorder, but their symptoms are still pretty aggressive, even if at a subclinical range, and definitely still impeding on quality of life and all that, right? Evidence suggests older Americans too, age 55 to 70, are impacted at a disproportionate rate. If the average rate is around 2 to 6%, it's closer to around 6-7% for Americans in this age group. Just as a public health issue, you might imagine what's so bad about hoarding? Why are we paying attention to it? Hoarding related fires rose 26% between 2014 and 2022, leading to injuries, property damage, millions in property damages, right? Part of what we noticed too is a mental health overlap, right? There's a lot of like comorbidities, co-occurring disorders, anxiety, depression, substance use disorder are often present alongside hoarding condition. So we're also going through, talk about, this is part of the social isolation and loneliness training we do, is that single occupancy households are at an all-time high in America right now. Single occupancy households also are more commonly subject to experiencing a hoarding condition. I think the rate is somewhere closer to even up to like 18%. So again, if we talk about 2 to 6, 7% in the general population, Single occupancy households are closer to around 15 or 18% experiencing a hoarding condition. Excuse me. Household conflict, again, the Venn diagram of mental health and hoarding is that evidence just kind of points to that familial conflict is commonly present in hoarded homes. Hoarding is, I won't get into all of it today, but it's kind of considered commonly associated with OCD and is commonly based in like a sense of control, having a sense of ownership and control over things. And because it's based in control, will commonly present alongside anger, irritability, stuff like that. So commonly household conflicts. Mental health conditions can be seen as both a cause of hoarding behaviors, like a precursor, and as kind of an antecedent or an outcome. Cluttered environments can yield kind of exacerbated symptoms for people. Again, another trend, we talk about single occupancy households. Another trend kind of surging, unfortunately, right now in America is like family estrangement, people cut off from family members. So we'll get into part of what moving forward offers, but we're commonly like helping to facilitate and support these safe connections among estranged family members, even if it's temporary, even if they go back to being estranged after the project is done or after we do the move. We're at least trying to address important family projects. Instead of kicking the can down the road or never getting rid of this legacy home, they can either return to the estrangement patterns afterwards or, hey, maybe resume the connection or something like that, right? So our target, I'll briefly describe what our target is. We're trying to do project management to help families clear attics, barns, basements, excessively cluttered living areas, storage units, kind of you name it. We're trying to get in there and bridge the service gap in the junk removal world by engaging with family health as the main target or as the main symptom. Family wellness, there's more people spending money on wellness than ever. Skincare and alcohol use is down across America and stuff like that. So the wellness industry is big right in our face, right? And so what we're trying to do is these things like 1-800-GOT-JUNK or U-Haul or a moving company, I won't denigrate it. These are great services, right? But they're really not addressing maybe the family history or the presence of like sibling conflict, maybe in trying to clear a family home. So we're trying to get in there, engage with both, and coordinate with the subcontractor perhaps for a dumpster rental and stuff like that, but also be very present, be mental health professionals in the home while these changes happen and while these clearing of rooms happens. And part of our mission is continuing offering quality mental health care to families like we already do in the Hudson Valley and Westchester in New York City. Very much on the same mission. We've modified it a bit, right? It's not in the traditional clinical setting. It's just a little atypical maybe, right, for what other practices are offering. So the scope of work and how we do this is we'll do, and if we get an outreach for someone, we'll do an initial walkthrough and an estimate stage. We really can't do anything of this by like Zoom or by phone. Some people will describe the state of a home, and then we get there and it's like, it blows you away how maybe different it is than they described it. What we try not to do is the ones that surge into really risky territory, like hygiene issues, or when we say hoarders, you picture like the television stuff and all that. And what we're really doing is trying to do more the less extreme end of that spectrum, right? There are dedicated professionals like ServPro who do mold remediation and all that. Part of why we do the initial walkthrough is we aren't equipped for the real critical water damage and hygiene issues and animal hoarding and all that. So we'll get a sense of that through the initial walkthrough and build a quote for a family. And then part of what we do is get in there with the siblings or with the family members, whoever they are, the children of the hoarder or the hoarder themselves, perhaps. And we'll do triage of deciding what stays and goes, coordinating with veterans associations, coordinating with Habitat for Humanity. We'll coordinate disposal and donation of items removed from the home. And we'll do this in line with local waste management regulations, as well as like what family desires and family wishes are. or if there's any existing documentation, power of attorney, or if there's an estate involved, like we'll get in the mix with all that stuff and make sure they're honoring whatever arrangements are in place for the family. Again, just trying to get a little more personalized and into the wellness piece of the family, rather than show up and one fell swoop kind of junk and dumpster it out the door. We're trying to connect with wellness and making sure people are safe and supported and keeping mental health in the mix while we do all this. After triage of items and all that, we'll do guide families through any conflict or surges in emotional distress that might come up during the removal stage or during the sorting and triage stage. As the projects unfold, we'll have mental health professionals on site at all times. This may last, it could be anywhere from usually 2 or 3 days would be the short end of a project, and then we can go from 7 to 10 days on a bigger project. It's very rarely less than 48 hours that we do these things in. And then the final removal stage, like once all the triage and getting through the emotional state of this and everything's labeled and stickered and boxed and zipped or bagged and all that, we go to the final removal stage. Either the donation and nonprofit organization shows up to take some of those items away, or the dumpster roll-off has its final day of rental, and all contracted work is executed. And then what we do is we do follow-up care. We'll usually do almost like a therapy session, just kind of there with the family to as a capstone to all of it. And we'll render referrals for follow-up care, right? As we would with any termination in a clinical setting, or if someone's discharged from surgery or discharged from memory care or any of these things, right? They always give like the sheet of like follow-up care. Like this is what maybe should happen next for our professional recommendations of where the family can go. No, what they would call clinical abandonment, right? We're always making sure we're in there with the families at the final stage to give follow-up. So that's our scope of what we're trying to offer. We practice in New York, Connecticut, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. We will travel for these things, and that's what we're trying to offer with people. We commonly coordinate with different vendors, dumpster roll-off, or junk removal professionals like the laborers removing the furniture and stuff like that. We have some contacts in Westchester, some contacts in Dutchess or Albany. So it's whatever region we're getting outreach from, is we'll start to collaborate with those local organizations and do that.
And Andrew, do you bill for your services?
What's that?
What are your hourly rates? How do you bill?
So it's again that hygiene thing, or how much the volume of this project is. We really do case by case basis. But for an 8-hour day, the range is around anywhere from $600 to $800 for an 8-hour day.
Okay.
One thing that has come up in some of our consultations with people is they say, well, you're doing mental health. We're doing this is a mental health service. Can my insurance cover this? What leg of this can be covered by insurance? Which I get and empathize. It makes sense, right? Unfortunately, we're at a stage where, like, is the conundrum with a lot of hoarding treatment is insurance doesn't consider it to be like medically necessary. It's not urgent, like surgery is needed, or there's no imminent risk. We know the evidence base, there's risk to hoarding and all that, and these mental health comorbidities. For whatever reason, I could talk for an hour on this, and I won't, but for whatever reason, insurance doesn't consider this medically necessary, so we have to operate outside of that medical model. They're commonly not getting reimbursement from, it's not considered in-network or at a copay rate. They're also not subject to reimbursement after the fact. So these are just out-of-pocket services we're offering for people.
And can you tell me what was, in the last year or two, the most extreme situation that you worked on?
Sure. Yeah. Some of these, as you might imagine, and like I said, we do cap it at the more extreme end. I've done walkthroughs where I'm like, I'll be honest with you, this is outside of our scope. Some of the more extreme would be like these legacy family homes in Connecticut that have just been around for 80 years, 100 years. They've been around forever, and it gets complicated, like lineage of ownership, and like the owner of the farm saying, no, 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 this I don't want this to go, and if there's 10 people present, nine of them are like, of course it has to go. So. Um, some of the more complicated aren't even like unsavory items or huge furniture items. It's really that there's the interpersonal strain or interpersonal conflict, even if they're not at a crisis point, and sometimes they are, of course. But I would say the extreme things doesn't come in the items. It comes more in how people present, and the irritability spikes. Like I said, hoarding, there's a major Venn diagram with like control, ownership and control, and anger and irritability spikes. I would say those are the ones that I consider like extreme. But clinically, I try to avoid extreme. It's part of my own self-care and my own stress management as the extreme stuff. I make sure to keep a lid on.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and I would encourage anyone, Alana or Mickey or Leslie, if you have any questions. Ellen, I had a case probably now 25 years ago where the wife was a hoarder, and she also was bringing cats into the home.
Mm,
And the
yeah.
party had left a home in New Jersey in part because of this kind of situation. And the husband, when they moved to Ossining, New York, the husband saw the pattern repeating itself,
Mm,
and he started a divorce action because she was
yeah.
bringing cats into the home and cats were dying in the home. Um, and the village of Ossining ended up um, issuing an order requiring them to vacate the home
Yeah.
and bringing in um, cleaning services. I can't remember, for toxic
Hmm.
situations. And so that's what motivated the husband and the wife. They had I think, a 6 or 7 year old daughter,
Mm,
and the husband ended up getting custody because, as you say, there were the comorbidities, um, the mental health issues of the wife.
yeah.
And I don't know if the daughter ever had an ongoing relationship with the mother. I did hear from the client maybe 5 or 10 years ago
Hmm.
that the daughter, was grown up and doing well, and but
Hmm.
really little contact with the mother. So it's scary what can happen to people. And I
Yeah.
mean, interestingly, the three of the five people on the call today are mental health professionals. So
Hmm.
when they saw what you do, I think it struck a chord.
I'm glad, and thank you for sharing. And that it's part of what preceded all this idea, right? Is that like I said, I've done dozens and dozens and dozens, so many home visits over the course. Um, part of which with VNS in New York City, and part of which with CPS and foster care in Dutchess County. And what what you notice when you do so many home visits is things like there's just four walls. You see it from a curb, or you see an apartment from the outside, and it's like four walls. And once you get inside, it's the cubic feet of stuff, right? I realize more people than not have a relationship with a spilling over pantry or spilling over room at the minimum end. Most families have a spilling over pantry. That's normal. And then at the higher and higher ends, the measure goes however far you can imagine it goes.
Sure.
So many families are struggling with this, and on that end of the spectrum you're describing, kind of like, yeah, it can be devastating for family members.
Right, right. Yeah, no, it's incredible. I mean, we're a consumption society. We're constantly having ads thrown at us,
Yeah,
telling us we need things.
yeah,
And so it's that's, I'm sure, a big part of it.
absolutely. Yep,
So,
it is.
does anyone else want to ask a question, make an observation, thoughts, situations that you've had?
I think this is a great service to be aware of. And thank you for coming, Andrew. This is very interesting. Um, I really like the idea of the mental health support because the overflowing places where people hold on to things, it's so hard
Mm,
to let go. And
yeah.
to have that kind of support and to treat it that way is such a good service, just really so positive. So
I'm
I'm
glad it
really
resonates.
happy to know
Thank you.
about it.
Yeah,
Mickey,
thank
could
you.
you identify yourself? And I think you and Andrew are neighbors to some degree.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, really? I live in Garrison.
Oh, gotcha. I'm in Beacon area, Fishkill, East Fishkill. Yeah,
Okay, all right.
yeah.
Yeah,
Not far at
so
all.
yes, I'm a social worker and I work with divorcing people and
Mm,
mostly relationship issues and helping
mhm,
people through divorce. But also, there are times when you have a family who have to leave a house that's a mess. I have
mm,
not come across in my own practice a hoarder that
mhm,
I'm aware of anyway. But as you say, sometimes you don't know until you do a home visit,
mhm.
which is not my norm. I don't usually do that.
Yeah, and
But
so many people are in the subclinical range where they're not a hoarder necessarily, but it still impedes on family wellness, or it still has some element of strain, you know?
it does anchor you to the present. Like if the house
Mm,
is unmanageable, um, then people feel that you just can't um, move.
sure.
You can't go to the next step if you want to because it's just too overwhelming.
Yeah.
So it's great to know that this service exists. I know there are senior move managers also who,
Mm, yes. Yeah.
help you on that end, but there's no psychological services
Yeah.
attached to that as far as I know.
Hmm. And that's a good clarifying point, actually. A lot of these we're not doing. One of the services we do not offer is point A to point B, residence A to residence B. We've had people say that, like, "Hey, can you help it move it to my sister's house in this area and stuff like that." Point A to point B, residence to residence or residence storage unit. We don't really do a lot of, or any of, to be honest. It is mostly removal and donation based.
Hmm. Well, that is the meat of it, really. I
Mm,
mean, if you can get the donation and removal, once you have that done, I would imagine things would go a lot easier.
clears up a bit. Yeah.
And Alana, I see you there.
Yeah, hi.
Hi,
Hi.
good to see you.
So first of all, wow, and amazing that you have the courage to do the work that you do. I really
I
appreciate it.
appreciate that. Yeah, thank you.
Um, I'll just bring in a streak of my Midwest pragmatism, just because I'm curious about the
Sure.
boundaries of your work.
Hmm.
Um, if it is extremely severe, but the family has already got consent from the person who was most involved in collecting, should we say, that
Hmm.
that person would not be on site and putting barriers. Would you consider something like that, or would that, if it was really severe, do you just say I have to take care of myself and not be there?
So how do you mean really severe, volume wise or
I think it's volume. I think the internal house got neglected. I know there's all in this particular case, they've already taken out a lot of stuff just to a dump. So
Mhm,
there's been one pass through where the worst of the worst is gone.
mm,
Um, so that's one I myself have not seen it, so I can't
mm,
really do a whole lot better than that.
sure.
Um, and then the other question I had was also, so I know you didn't answer that one, but just are you really up, Upper Westchester and Connecticut only, or if your travel time is covered, would you come more into further into New York?
Yeah, we can go further into New York. We would build it as part of the quote, as part of a travel fee and everything. But
Right.
our goal is supporting and helping people. So if they can help us on our end with the travel fee and we make arrangements for that,
Yeah.
I think it's doable.
Okay.
Same thing with like Pennsylvania, or it's all doable.
So then going back to the first question, what feels like outside the pale in terms of what you are okay to take on?
Yeah, I think animal hoarding is one, as Ken mentioned. It's actually more common than you'd care to appreciate. It's sad to hear, but it is a common presentation of hoarding, right?
Mm-hmm.
Animal hoarding would be above what we're comfortable with. Um, uh, I would say volume um, that would take longer than 3 weeks or longer than a month, when you start to see someone almost have like a warehouse size, the sheet metal warehouse on part of their property, and there's 8,000 square feet and everything. Those size projects do, I would say, overstay their welcome. The families commonly do want to collaborate in short, I wouldn't say sprints, but like I said, anywhere from 2 to 10 days. That's our target spot. These projects that would last closer to a month or so. Um, the joy, I don't know, or interest, or the drive deteriorates around day 9 or so.
Yeah,
Families go
yeah,
back to
you've
work,
really
or they
studied
depart the
this. Yeah,
property, and we
yeah,
lose our therapeutic focus at that point. So
yeah, yeah. Wow. All right. Very, very good to know about you,
mhm.
really.
Thank you.
And
I'm glad to connect with all of you, and yeah,
yeah, and
go
Andrew,
ahead.
you mentioned your partner. I think Netta was the one who reached out to me initially
Hmm.
a few
Yeah.
months ago.
Hmm. She's excellent. She'll do a lot of, so oftentimes she's not on site for the move or the haul for a lot of these things, but she'll do a lot of our office admin. If I'm in session or working with the family and we get outreach, she'll collaborate and coordinate kind of some of the admin end of things, like outreach to attorneys or nonprofits or nursing home and stuff like that. She'll workshop those items more commonly. She doesn't not do site visits. She'll do site visits with us occasionally, but her main scope is admin staff.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Really appreciate it, Andrew. And this recording will go up on the website as well.